Hello and welcome to our first webinar in the Course of Miracles. It gives me great pleasure to introduce the first speaker, who's Beverly Williams, who's going to speak about experiences on the Course of Miracles. Are you there, Bev?
I am, yes, Nick, I am.
Super job. So you're okay to answer some questions?
I'm looking forward to this, Nick, yeah. Yes.
Okay. All right, now the first one then is, what is A Course in Miracles?
Okay. A Course in Miracles is a book. It comes in 3 parts. The text, the workbook for students, and the manual for teachers. It's a curriculum that leads you to God. It teaches you how to work with the Holy Spirit and not with another part of your mind, which we call the ego mind. The course was actually channeled through a lady called Helen Schumann, and it was actually typed out from the translation by William Thetford, and they were both psychologists in America. And it took 7 years for the channeling to take place, and it's pretty amazing stuff. It's teaching us that God is there for us, and that we can be part of that place of peace. We can live in this crazy place, this world. We can learn to live in peace. And that's really basically what it is. It's a curriculum that leads you to be with God. And I think that's the best way of actually putting it.
That's super. Perhaps can you give us a little bit about the background of how you got involved in A Course in Miracles and what specifically led you to become such a passionate practitioner of A Course in Miracles?
Well, Nick, I'd never heard of the Course in Miracles until I read a book by Doreen Virtue, and it was like a kind of biography about her life, and the words just kept sort of jumping out at the page, and I kept thinking, what is A Course in Miracles? It seems something quite interesting to look at. And I did order it, and it cost me about £20 to buy, which was quite a lot of money for me at that time. But I just had this feeling, this fascination because of the title of the book, and I didn't expect it to be what it was when it came. I was quite surprised to see exactly what it was. For me, it looked like a Bible, and it also sort of, when I opened the book and I started to look into it, it talked a lot about God, and I kind of got a lot of fear from that. I sort of felt a lot of rejection to it, and I thought, well, I don't really want to read this, because, like, for me, the word God was something that I didn't like to look at or to read. For me, God is kind of hell and damnation. And it was, the word God for me was really scary. But I just had this feeling that I sort of put it to one side and thought, I don't want to read that. But I had this feeling, and I kept going back and looking at it. And I started to sort of read it a little bit, but as I didn't understand it. I found it very hard to understand because it's written in such a different way to what I'm used to. But after a while, I thought, well, maybe there could be a study group somewhere. Maybe I could approach somebody who knew how to do the course, or because I felt it was brought to me from the spirit world, and I felt I should do it. So I went to work one day, and I had the feeling, and I always think that I'm being guided to do these things, to look on the internet at the Course in Miracles website, which I did. And I looked in the study groups, and really, to cut a long story short, I found a study group that was not too far away from me in Shrewsbury, because I live in mid Wales. And when I looked at the guy's name who ran the study group, his name was Tony. I couldn't believe it, because I just met this Tony 2 weeks before I was sitting at my computer. And
Wow.
that is a real coincidence for me.
Mm.
And also, he was 1 mile from where I was sitting.
Gosh.
So for me, that just seemed, it was just obvious for me that he was the person that I was being guided to go to. And he'd done the course for 17 years.
Wow.
So I was quite lucky, because, you know, I spoke to him and told him that I was finding it very difficult to understand, and also that it was very difficult for me to use the word God, because it was very fearful for me. But he taught me through the course to move away from the fearful thought of God, and to understand that's a worldly thing, that there isn't hell and damnation, that there is truly only love. And for me now, I know God as love, and that he's part of me and I'm part of him, and it's brought faith and trust into my life that I've never ever had before. It's taught me to be with God and trust him and let him lead the way for me to carry on the rest of my life. So it's been massive changes in the way that I've approached my life before the course and sort of after. I hope that sort of explains it better for you.
Sure. So you mentioned faith and you mentioned trust, because my next question was going to be, you know, what are the top 3 things that someone should know in order to be successful in the Course in Miracles? You mentioned faith, you mentioned trust, but from your point of view, what are the top 3 things that someone should know in order to be successful in the Course in Miracles?
I think I mean, being successful in the Course in Miracles is not really the right way of putting it. It's a way of living. It's a way of being, and for me, the 3 main things is that we're living in an illusion. The Course actually states that nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal can exist. Herein lies the peace of God. So if we are living in be threatened, real, so we have no need to of it. The other thing is to be aware of the ego mind, that we have kind of split mind while we're here. We can be sort of in our ego side, which is kind of attached to the world, which makes us very fearful, and the ego kind of wants to look after itself and make sure that it has everything. It's not a giving kind of mind. It's a mind of holding on to things, and it's negative. The other side of the mind is the Holy Spirit. Is where it's love. It's standing back and letting the Holy Spirit lead us through our life, and doing and working in a way that we bring in the best things out in life. And how can I put this? Working for the good of everybody. And also the 3rd thing I would say is forgiveness, but we're not talking forgiveness in a kind of way that I'm forgiving somebody for doing something to me. In the Course, forgiveness is a way of releasing fear and prejudice against anybody who you are with, who is doing something to you. It's teaching you. Forgiveness is saying, this isn't real, this is an illusion. You haven't got to buy into these situations or these experiences. Therefore, I'm going to remain peaceful in my mind, and I'm going to be with God.